Hey, I'm Tyler Booker. You're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Greetings from Daytona, where a band of dreamers took a strip of beach and turned it into a proving ground. The great American race, where year after year, greatness is the destination. So book your experience and soak in 500 miles of history and tradition. Once you arrive, you'll never look back. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Roll Tide and welcome to this Thursday edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. This is Roger Hoover. Great to be with you from our Tuscaloosa studios as it's homecoming here at the University of Alabama, and we have a great show coming up for this Thursday afternoon, the second of two shows that we have Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR this week. We will start by taking a look at everything coming up on the show, thanks to our friends RJ Young. RJ Young, the official technology solutions provider of Crimson Drive. They've given us a smart board to go through everything in a very interactive way during our headlines. First things first, we'll talk with a current member of the Crimson Tide football team, Wilkin Formby, who had some time at right tackle this past week for Alabama against Tennessee. He'll tell us his thoughts on where this team stands at this point of the year, plus his journey, a very short journey, albeit, from Tuscaloosa to playing for the hometown Crimson Tide. Then we'll check in with Laura Rutledge, the host of SEC Nation. You see her every day on ESPN as well. She will talk about everything Alabama football, plus some behind-the-scenes content about Nick Saban making his transition into working in television. Then Barrett Jones will be our Alabama Legend of the Week. He is not only an Alabama legend, but earlier this week he was named one of the SEC football legends for this year, representing Alabama. Great conversation with Barrett Jones. Mike Kelly will join us for The Other Booth, presented by Marathon, giving us a really detailed scouting report on the Missouri Tigers ahead of this Saturday's game. And last but not least, we'll hear from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, with his final word from last night's Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show. Crimson Tide football again coming up this week against the Missouri Tigers. 2:30 will be the start time for Homecoming 2024. Our radio coverage will begin. Crimson Tide football team, of course, home against Missouri. For Alabama Athletics, the soccer team, the final home game is tonight against the Florida Gators, 6 p.m. the start time. We will have the broadcast coming up on SEC Network Plus with myself and Haley McDonald on the call. Senior night home finale, a game Alabama really needs to win, trying to make sure it is guaranteed a spot in the SEC tournament in 2 weeks in Pensacola, Florida. Meanwhile, the volleyball team lost last night on the road to Oklahoma. They will have a little bit of a layoff. They won't return to action until next Friday for Crimson Tide volleyball. Coming up this Friday, there will be action just outside the Walk of Champions and Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium for the women's basketball team. Hoops on the Loop, a really great way to interact with Christy Curry's basketball team. She talked about it a lot last night on Hey Coach and the Kalen DeBoer Show, so catch those details from her, but we're excited for Hoops on the Loop coming up on Friday. Then Saturday morning, it will be Vector Security Champions Lane, and will open at 10:30 for the Missouri game. And coming up on stage, we're going to have, starting at 10:30 at the Bud Light Backyard right over here, we will have Smith Distillery be our first band that performs until 11:15. We will hit the stage for the Crimson Tide Sports Network at 11:30 a.m. Be out there for about 45 minutes talking all things Alabama football. And then Easton Corbin will rock the Bud Light Backyard stage with a great show until 1:30. So much going on outside of Vector Security Champions Lane. Not only the Bud Light Backyard concert stage, we have player autographs happening right here next to the stage, and we'll see the women's basketball team, volleyball team signing autographs thanks to our friends at the Alabama Department of Public Health. More interactive displays. The LED video boards will be showing not only the end of college game day, but all the early window games that are going on around college football. Food trucks, LED video boards I mentioned, just great displays all throughout. And again, right here, corner of University and Wallace Way, the Tuska statue right there is the Bud Light Backyard. Again, this is the place to be for each and every Crimson Tide football game. And again, Easton Corbin, we can't wait to see him. We've already had Lauren Elena. Smith Distillery is going to be performing right before we see Easton Corbin, but we cannot wait to have him here with us in Tuscaloosa coming up on Saturday. A Tuscaloosa native, proud to wear the crimson for the Crimson Tide, that is Wilkin Formby. A fun conversation with him as he details his journey to Alabama and what's ahead for the Crimson Tide football team this week. Welcome back to Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR. Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by Alabama offensive lineman Wilkin Formby here at the podcast studio, the Advantage Center at Bryant-Denny Stadium. And Wilkin, roll tide. How's the season going for you?
It's going well. It's going well.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you here with us today as we talk following the Tennessee game, looking ahead to Alabama against Missouri. Just with some of the adversity we've seen in the last couple of weeks, how is this team really staying together? How are the leaders keeping this team together?
I think to start off, we have a very player-led team. So you're seeing guys kind of that you would expect leaders on our team step up and kind of take charge and keep us all together. But we're not pointing fingers at each other, and we're kind of just taking this on as a team.
How helpful are the Sunday practices, just getting, that bad feeling of a loss out of your system, or even, if you have a huge win, kind of getting that out of your system as well?
It's good because it starts your week early. You get to start everything on Sunday, and then that allows you to have an opportunity to be off the field on Monday and get some time to rest. So that's one great thing about it.
And then take me through the rest of the week. How's the practice schedule divvy up? How physical are days on like Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, so Tuesday and Wednesday are definitely our more physical days. We're going to have more reps and stuff and more time to do scout team looks, and those are more packed days, longer days. And then as the week goes on, we kind of start taking layers of pads off and start doing more, just focusing on fundamentals and things like that, less contact.
Well, that's certainly good to hear about as Alabama gets to return home coming up this Saturday against Missouri. I know you got to be fired up to be back at home with the home fans, right?
Yeah, I can't wait. It's nothing like playing at home. It is fun to play on the road and stuff and get to see those different atmospheres, and like when it really makes you, it gives a sense of togetherness for the team when you're running out there and it's our 70 guys versus their 100,000 fans. That's it's fun to take on that adversity and to have that bond with each other, but there's nothing like playing at home, especially at Bryant-Denny.
How does this offense stay on the same page on the road with all the signals because of the noise and different things like that?
Yeah, I think our coaches do a great job game planning throughout the week and making it dummy-proof for us, making it hard to mess up our plays and things like that. And I think Jalen does a great job communicating to the offensive line and stuff, and also the right guard next to me communicating, and the center, Parker Brails, for him communicating with us and things like that.
Let's talk about some of your teammates on the offensive line. Let's start with the man you just mentioned, Parker Brailsford. What's he meant to this football team?
He means a lot. Like, he's off the field and on the field. He's so calm, and he's not he doesn't speak a whole lot, but he's very calm. And when we're on that field, he takes charge. And there's one thing you can rely on. He's so smart that you can rely that he's going to bring the right things to the table. And you can rely a lot on him, especially having a center that has experience like he does.
Certainly good to have. And then for you, I think everybody kind of looked in August at the position battle at right tackle between you and Elijah Pritchett. How'd you guys handle that? Obviously, your teammates, you spelled him for a stretch against Tennessee, vice versa at different times this year. How did you guys still compete but still maintain a good friendship?
Yeah, I mean, we have a great friendship and a great bond. And, like, whenever I'm in, he's looking at me and watching me and telling me, hey, I see this, I see that, go change this. And I'll do the same for him when he's in. And I kind of think, like, during the week, we still compete and we still battle. But then right when it comes game time, it's us versus them. And it's not about who's playing and who's not playing. It's just about us beating the team that we're playing.
And then you mentioned him earlier, right guard right next to you, Jaden Roberts. What does he do well?
J-Rob he's a specimen, and he's very strong, and everyone knows that, you know what I mean? So he's very strong. He has experience from playing last year and stuff, and just his energy before the game, he gets so excited before the game, and it kind of gets everybody going, and he's just great. He's great to play with.
That certainly can be said about, again, the guys on the left side of the line as well. Yeah. Tyler Booker, obviously one of the team leaders. And then when I interviewed you at Hey Coach, we had Caden Proctor in the building. He wasn't officially back on the roster yet, so I can talk about him, but I know you're thrilled to have him back in Crimson.
No doubt, I am.
Yeah, great to have those guys. Again, the offensive line, what's different about this group maybe from a year ago with the new position coach in Coach Kapolovic?
I think one of the main things that stands out to me is how together we are as a group. Like the 5, 6, 7 guys who play, and even the guys who aren't in, are so close. We have a very close, tight-knit group, and in the meetings they're ran very well. Everyone's asking questions, everyone's dialed in and engaged, and then at practice, Coach Cap brings great intensity and what he calls juice, and that's why we're called the Juice Squad. He always brings the juice and the energy, and he just wants, you can just see it in him. He wants us to be excellent, and he'll do anything he has to do to get us coached up, and that's what I appreciate most from him.
Now, during the week, you're battling against your teammates on the
Mhm.
defensive line. Obviously, did that all spring and summer as well. Who were some of the tough matchups? Who laid some of the hardest hits on you?
I think we have a very well-rounded group on defense, but some of the toughest competition would be one of my close friends, LT, and we've been friends for a while. So we'll battle it a lot because like whenever I'll finish a rep and say I win, like we'll always talk smack to each other, and it goes on off the field into the locker room. We'll just be talking back and forth about who got the best on each other. But I think a lot of those guys, I mean, we have a great group up front, but that's one that stands out most just because of our relationship off the field. It pushes us on the field to battle even more.
That's certainly good to see. Looking at you and your journey to Alabama, a lot of it you could say was almost predestined given your family history. What can you tell us about that family history here with Alabama football?
Yeah, I mean, my granddad, he played here and stuff, and that played a big part just because like being a legacy player and being able to play at Alabama and stuff, but also being from Alabama, I got to grow up and see the culture at a young age. But I tell people this all the time. If I grew up in Texas or Florida or wherever, Alabama was the best program at the time when I was getting recruited, and that was what I felt was fit for me. And so I would have gone there regardless. People always say, just because I'm from Tuscaloosa, oh, of course he went to Alabama. Well, like I said, if I was from somewhere else, I still would have come to Alabama.
Favorite game you saw here in the stands?
Um, that's a tough one. I'll say I think it was when Alabama was playing Tennessee, and Ashawn Robinson had like a huge play against Tennessee, and it was so loud that my ears were numb for like 2 minutes after the play. Like I couldn't even hear. He had a huge. I can't remember if it was like an interception or something. It was a crazy play. It might have been like a sack or a fumble, and that's my favorite memory as a fan at Alabama.
And then as you're getting more notice in the recruiting process, how special was it to go really behind the scenes with this football program once you were on like official visits or camps, got to be around this program more?
It was awesome just growing up and dreaming at a young age to be able to play college football and go and see all across the SEC and all the other schools. But it was awesome to be able to just like usually I would drive a couple hours to get to the facilities at Tennessee or LSU or wherever I would travel to, but being able to just go right down the street to see Alabama's and to get to see all these coaches that you see on TV and stuff and get to build a personal relationship with them was awesome.
Did you enjoy getting to know Coach Saban? How special was that?
Yeah, I did. Like at first, I was so scared when I first went in his office, and but getting to grow a relationship with him was awesome. I mean, that's the greatest coach ever. So it was great to be able to get to know him and just try to take everything that you can from him and him being such a smart coach.
Yeah, I think a lot of us see different sayings he would say on his radio show or press conferences, and we all try to apply it to our lives. I mean, I imagine for you guys, that was every week with every meeting, right?
It was, and like we sometimes talk about this now. Like whenever he would come up and speak, or after practice, it was just like every time he spoke, you were like, "Whoa!" Like you could take something from everything that he said.
That's certainly good. And you got to be part of his last team at Alabama. Now you get to be part of the first team with Kalen DeBoer. Starting with the first meeting with Coach DeBoer on that Friday night, how did you see him really win over the guys on this team?
It was cool. Like it was his first time in Tuscaloosa, and getting to see him and just kind of how he was, getting to see his demeanor and what he's about, and hearing about his program. And everybody was kind of flustered because we just gotten the news that our coach was gone and he had just gotten the job. So I think everyone, all of our eyes were on him and wanted to hear what he had to say and get a good first impression of Coach DeBoer.
And a lot of people have talked about going 1-0 in every day. A lot of ways, that's just what Coach Saban would talk about with the process, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think Coach DeBoer respected a lot of the standard that Coach Saban had in place, and he kind of used some of that to build his version of the standard when he got here.
And he kept the fourth quarter program.
Yeah.
And of course, a lot of good work done by you in the weight room. How much do you enjoy the weight room atmosphere that's built here by Coach Ballou?
I love the weight room, and that was one of the biggest draws to Alabama. I knew that the strength staff was incredible, and also that brings me to another point. When Coach Saban announced his retirement, and they said that they were going to keep the weight room staff, I was ecstatic because they do a wonderful job, and Coach Ballou and the guys around him do a great job, and they give you a why behind everything, and they always like to say they just turn us to animals.
Yeah, with that, how competitive do you guys get in there?
We get very competitive because there's a lot of technology and it shows there's leaderboards and it shows your number right after you do the lift. And so like you'll go back and forth with whoever's at your rack and you'll be competing with them trying to get the best numbers because at the end of the lift it's going to be on the TV and there's going to be a podium with first, second, third, all the way through your position group, and you want to make sure that you're at the top of the list.
What was your best lift? Where did you kind of stack up in a lot of those?
I feel like my best lift is most lower body things like squat and speed squat and things like that. But I really just love being in there with the guys and the coaches and the energy that the coaches bring to us.
And then during the season, what kind of maintenance does it take to make sure you guys are ready to go week in, week out with all the heavy contact you're getting, not just in practice, but the games as well?
Yeah, and that brings me to another point about Jeff Allen and the training room. They're great. It's the best of the best. There's no school out there with a better strength staff or training staff than we have. And so being able to trust them and not have to lean on kind of my own thoughts or what I think I should do, I get to just ask them and say, what do you guys think? Or when we go in the weight room, they have everything laid out for us that's best fit for us, so I don't have to worry.
That's certainly good. And now as you continue this season, just how much fun have you had getting to live out this dream playing for Alabama?
I mean, last year was great getting to it was my first year here and I got to see everything, but this year having more of a role on the field has been awesome. It's been great to just be able to try to contribute for this team. And the best thing is the relationships that I've gotten through playing here and the guys like Tyler Booker and Caden Proctor and the other offensive linemen and even guys in other positions. Just being able to go out there and look to my left and right and see them out there with me and knowing how bad I want to fight for these guys, that's the best part about it.
What have you liked away from the football field, either in the classroom, some NIL opportunities? What have you enjoyed about that part of it?
I think that as my major's gone on and changed, when I first did my major, when I first declared what I was going to do, I was in general business, and I did not want to be in business after a couple weeks because I was like, this is not fun. Like I want an easy major, and so I talked to my advisor, and she was like, you can't leave because you want an easy major. And so she really pushed me to stay in business. And then now I'm in marketing. I focused on that. And I think as I've gotten through some of the harder business classes, I'm glad that I stuck with business.
That's awesome. What do you think you want to do after football's done?
I'm not gonna lie, I have no clue. To be honest, I just kind of think it's going to be great to have a business degree from the University of Alabama and know that I spent my time well here and took advantage of free education and made the most of it.
Well, like you said earlier, this football team right now really taking it 1 week at a time. With that in mind, what do you hope fans see on Saturday against Mizzou?
I think that most importantly, we're just going to show. I feel bad for Mizzou because like we've come off a loss and we're very focused on us. It's all about us, and we're focused on just keep winning. It's the next game. We're focused at the next game at hand. And so just being able to dominate our opponent and more so focus on us and what we have to do.
We look forward to seeing Wilkin Formby. You're doing a great job for the Crimson Tide in that offensive line. Just thank you for all the time today on Crimson Drive, and best of luck coming up this week. Roll Tide.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Experience racing like never before. From the sandy beaches of Daytona to the high banks of one of the most exciting super speedways on the NASCAR circuit. Don't miss out as NASCAR kicks off the 2025 season with the Daytona 500 on February 16th, 2025. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. Coming up on Saturday, it's going to be very busy around campus with the homecoming festivities, and SEC Nation is in town. Even the Paul Feinbaum Show on Friday will be broadcasting live from here in Tuscaloosa, and then coming up on Saturday morning, Laura Rutledge will be the host of SEC Nation. We always enjoy catching up with Laura Rutledge, who has seen the Crimson Tide some this season as a sideline reporter, but now gets to see Alabama as the host of SEC Nation, and she joins us this week for our national media interview here on Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Laura, first of all, it's great to have you and the crew coming back to T-Town. How's everything going?
We are so excited to be back, and it's a place that is obviously very near and dear to my heart. I love going to Tuscaloosa. It's a big deal in the Rutledge household when we're going there. So Josh is always like, man, can I go? This week he can't go, but hopefully down the road, if we're able to go back, he'll be able to join. But really just love being there. I love seeing all the Alabama fans that show up, and we can't wait to see all of you out there. So if you're able to come, just stop by, yell at us. We love taking pictures and hanging out, and it should be a really fun show.
Yeah, speaking of Josh, of course, a great Alabama baseball player, huge football fan. How is he taking the last 3 weeks for this football team?
It hasn't been a great time to be in the household with an Alabama fan. What's been interesting, and our relationship is so funny because I probably know a little bit too much. So I'll be like, no, it's fine. Like they can afford a couple losses. Now, yes, here is when they really need to dial in and focus in on the season and make sure they don't have any more losses. And I keep telling him, like, in the expanded playoff, it matters what you're doing in November. It matters what you're doing in December, and they're going to be fine. And they're so talented, especially offensively. I'm like trying to make him feel better. And he's like, oh, I'm so upset. So I know it's been unusual, right? I mean, the reality is, we haven't seen Alabama with 2 losses at this point in the season since 2007. So I realize a lot of fans are upset and discouraged, and I see why, but I still very firmly believe in this team.
Is this the first time you're really going to be around Alabama so far this season? And have you met and talked with Coach DeBoer very much in the past?
So I actually was on Alabama's sideline for the Alabama-Georgia game. I got to do that broadcast, and so spent a lot of time with him that week, and spent a lot of time talking to Coach DeBoer, and obviously interviewed him multiple times in that game, which of course was a really interesting game and a huge win, right? Like at the end of the day, like now we've seen Georgia go beat Texas, the #1 team. So that win that Alabama had over Georgia at home matters a ton, and still maybe one of the better wins that any team is going to have this season, despite the way that Georgia came roaring back in that one. So, but yeah, it's a different vibe, right? Having covered many Nick Saban led Alabama teams over the years, it's definitely a different vibe. And I think that part is probably a little bit hard for fans too, who are used to the intensity and the attention to detail that Nick Saban has. And it's not that Coach DeBoer doesn't have that attention to detail, because I believe he does. I do still firmly believe he's the right person for the job. And there's a lot of positive about him, but he's just a different person than Coach Saban. There's no other Coach Saban. I think we all wish, we could clone him and like have him on TV and also have him coaching still, but it's very different.
Very different. And it seems like Coach DeBoer has stayed pretty steady, even with the losses the last few weeks and then the emotional high of that Georgia win. Have you seen him stay pretty consistent throughout his first year?
Yes, and I think even the message that the players have been revealing even this week about kind of trying to block out some of that outside noise. I mean, I don't think we all realize sometimes, and we, I'm not even saying that we need to be sympathetic toward these players, but they are young men who are trying to figure out life. And like, if you think about yourself, no matter what you did from 18 to 22 years old or so, none of us had it all figured out. Like they're uber talented, but it is hard in this day and age. We're seeing a ton of parity across the SEC. We're seeing it in college football as a whole. I think we're just going to see some teams that you don't expect to lose some this season. The transfer portal has created that. NIL has created that. So it is sort of a new era of college football. And I think what you're seeing from Coach DeBoer is trying to say, guys, all this is happening around us. Let's try to focus on getting better, because there are obviously areas that are needed for improvement for the Crimson Tide. And I have seen a shift in the way that they are managed by DeBoer. I mean, even ahead of that Georgia game, I talked to Jalen Milroe about what was different for him, and he just talked about feeling freer and more confident, and they don't have that same pressure on him. And I know some people are like, well, that's a bad thing, but I think overall, probably it is ultimately better for this group and for young men who, in this day and age, are trying to navigate through things. Like guys are just different now than they probably were at the beginning of Coach Saban's career, and everything's different with social media and all of that. So I think if this team can really take that to heart, block some of this noise out, take care of business, they've got to win this game this week, then we're probably in a situation where we might see them peak at the right time. That's all that really matters.
Speaking of Coach Saban, in your decade covering Alabama's program with him as the head coach, do you have a favorite moment either on air or off air that really stands out?
Oh my goodness, there's so many. I mean, he's one of my favorite coaches I've ever had the pleasure of interviewing and talking to. I actually would say my favorite moment is now as he's crossed over to our side of things, and we had him at SEC Media Days. So really the beginning part of his work, which was a pretty hefty workload at Media Days, happened with us on SEC Network. And he was so funny. We did the first day, and we were on set for about 3 hours. And, Media Days, it's like you talk and then you wait for somebody to do their whole press conference and then you talk again and you can't leave. I mean, he couldn't even leave to go to the bathroom. Like we all just sit up there and wait until the next time. And so we got done and it was time for the next group to come in. And he looked at us and he said, "That's it?" He's like, I thought I was here to work. I mean, that's not enough work. I studied all these teams. I need to be doing more. And I was like, "Okay, coach, well, we didn't want to, overwork you here like early on." And he's like, "No, I've got nothing else to do. What am I going to sit in the hotel all day?" So we ended up actually, this is like a, untold story here, inside information. We ended up adding more to his plate for the rest of the week at media days because we realized that he wanted to work and that was what he had come to do. And I mean, you just see his dedication to this craft, like he's been dedicated to coaching for all these years. You're seeing it play out on TV. But truly an icon, a legend. I think he's going to be many Emmy award winning broadcaster, and it's just been fun to, be a very small part of his TV career.
Of course, he's on College Game Day while you guys are having fun on SEC Nation. What can you tell us about where you've been the last few weeks? So we know you got to highlight two of the new additions to the league with Texas and Oklahoma and Dallas.
Yeah, there were so many cool spots that we've been able to do and to experience Red River for the first time. I had never been there before. I'd never done that game before, covering the SEC so extensively over these past few years and not being anywhere else on a Saturday except for the SEC. And so to know that that rivalry is now part of our conference is so special. I would recommend if you haven't been to that, go. I know just as a college football fan, the state fair is there and it's just wild and crazy. So that was really a whole lot of fun. And then of course didn't end up the way that Alabama wanted it to end up, but being in Knoxville last week and getting that environment. I mean, the third Saturday in October, it's one of those things. There's so many things changing in college football, and certainly with expanded schedules and the conference expansion and things changing, you see some of these great rivalries go away. I am so glad that we still have that third Saturday in October. And I know Alabama fans have a bitter taste in their mouth after the way that it went, but it's just such a great game. So that was really cool and special. And, it's been such a unique year being able to go and experience the Texas and Oklahoma editions and feel that, but then also still have so much that has stayed the same. And I think that's been special for us too, to know that we go to these spots and we know what to expect, and the hospitality is wonderful. And as I said off the top, Tuscaloosa is just top notch for us, and we're excited. We have some really fun plans for this show. We got the homecoming parade that actually starts like halfway through our show, so we're going to have a plan to cover that, so you get to see some of that. And just a really fun interactive day for anybody who can come out to the show. And then if you're watching at home, we just hope that you step away feeling like you were in T-Town for the day, getting ready for a big game.
Then brag on your crew, if you could, just for a second, how tight-knit your group is, really on and off air.
Oh, I love that you asked that. I mean, truly, they are so much fun. And it's been just an honor and a joy for me to spend time with them. And it's really cool because, you see the on-air chemistry come out. And that's because we really enjoy each other. Our production meetings on Friday are absolutely hilarious. Tebow will go on a rant. Paul will wander off. We don't know where he went. I'll be talking to Paul and he's not in the room anymore. I'm like, where did he go? Jordan brings such excellent analysis and such an inside look at things. He, calling games, has a front row seat to talking to all these teams and these coaches. And so that really benefits our product on air. And Roman is just hilarious. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth. He has his scooter, his electric scooter that we travel on our nation bus. So he just scoots around the towns and he'll do what he calls his vibe check. So he'll come back and tell us. And then Marty and McGee are fantastic. And they'll, of course, be leading into Nation as usual. So they're on at 8 a.m. local in Alabama. But it's really a group that means so much to me. And, I've been on the show for 9 years. And sometimes people are like, how much longer are you going to do the show? I'm like, you guys have to pull me off of this show with some sort of pliers from the hand of God, because I love it so much and I live for it. It's been a true blast. And it really is because of the people. Our people behind the scenes as well are so incredibly special to me. Our coordinating producer Barron Miller, our producer Randy Heritage, our director Jeff Dorsey. It's just like a really special group, and we have a lot of fun together. I think if you walk into our production office, you would be like, wow, all they're doing is laughing and like checking on each other and having fun. So it's a wonderful environment.
Well, it translates well to television. Laura, we can't wait to have you and the entire crew coming to Tuscaloosa this weekend. Just safe travels, and we'll look forward to seeing you. And also just tell Josh to hang in there. Some wins are coming for the Tide.
Prayers for Josh. Oh, it is so great to see you. Thanks again.
Greetings from Daytona, where year after year, greatness is the destination. So book your experience and soak in 500 miles of history and tradition. Secure your seats now at Daytona500.com.
Fun times ahead with the SEC Nation crew. Make sure you check that out before our radio coverage begins, coming up on Saturday morning. Someone that's been a part of our radio coverage before, Barrett Jones, former Alabama offensive lineman, one of the most decorated student athletes in the University of Alabama history. Yes, I say not just the football program, but the entire University of Alabama. Three-time national champion. He won the Outland Trophy, the Campbell Trophy, which is essentially the academic Heisman Trophy. And again, those 3 national championships in a 4-year span. Just tremendous for Barrett Jones, and with that, the SEC has recognized him as one of the legends of Alabama football for this year for the SEC Legends class, as they always have one representative from each SEC school get recognized at the SEC championship game, and this year representing Alabama, Barrett Jones. So no better time to catch up with one of our good friends here on the network and a Crimson Tide and SEC legend, Barrett Jones.
Roger Hoover now pleased to be joined by one of our good friends here on the Crimson Tide Sports Network, Alabama legend, now we can say SEC football legend, Barrett Jones will be honored by the Southeastern Conference this year. Former Crimson Tide offensive lineman who joins us now. And Barrett, roll Tide. It's really good to see you again, and congratulations on being named an SEC football legend. How's everything going?
Good, Roger. Yeah, I was very honored when Greg Byrne actually gave me a call. I thought I told him, I was like, hey, you might have the wrong number. This is Barrett Jones, not Julio Jones or somebody else. So I was surprised and very honored that they would bestow that upon me. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting and it'll be fun to be there. I was selfishly really hoping that the Tide would be there as well. Maybe they still will be. Who knows? Long season, but maybe not quite the ideal results the last couple of weeks for that hope, but yeah, it'll be a fun weekend and a fun chance to reflect upon my career. And it's weird to like the idea of a legend. Even first of all, I'm not saying I'm a legend, but it kind of means you're old. So I'm starting to feel a little bit old. I've got 3 kids. My wife calls me old sometimes. So I feel like I'm not on the cutting edge of technology anymore. The young kids are running circles around me. So it's just it's a changing of the guard in all things, and as you start to get a little bit older.
Yeah, does that kind of blow your mind, just even thinking back to now it's been 15 years since that 2009 season and that national championship?
It does blow my mind. Yeah, definitely. I can't believe it was that long ago. It feels like it was yesterday, the first day I walked onto campus, and now here we are, like you said, 15 years later, post the first national championship that we won, and it was a great experience, and definitely I remember it so well, and I remember all the games, and I see a game or something on an old game come on, and all the memories just come flooding back of all the detailed things that we worked on, and the different plays we ran and what happened in certain scenarios and the communication we have. So yeah, it's funny how that kind of stuff sticks with you, especially in some of those big games that we had down the stretch. You really remember a lot of the very specifics about those. So yeah, it is funny how time flies. And the weird thing for Alabama fans is that there's been so many things that have happened since then. It's really kind of hard to keep track of all the different players and all the different All-Americans and all the different championships, because there's been an embarrassment of riches. People have asked me, who are not familiar at all with Alabama, they'll ask me like, hey, are they gonna, you think they'll retire your jersey at Alabama? I'm like, look, if they retired jerseys, they would have no numbers left. It's because there's so many players that have been unbelievable. And if, first of all, they're going to retire jerseys, they would have about 50 guys they would do before me, which is great. But it's just funny how many awesome guys there have been. And I think that's why it is such an honor to be picked to do this, because there have been so many unbelievable players, especially over the last 15 years or so, that have come through Alabama. And so to be picked from that batch is a huge honor. And hopefully I'll try to represent the university well in Atlanta.
Looking back for just a moment to your recruiting process, so what made Alabama stand out in that process and ultimately win out among some other schools?
Yeah, they weren't that good when I was getting recruited. And they had a different coach initially, and Coach Shulo when I was getting recruited. And honestly, took a couple of visits and was not that impressed, and kind of wrote him off my list. That's kind of where I wanted to go. My dad went there, but after my first couple of visits, I said, I don't know. I just don't have a great feeling about it. I'm not sure how good they're going to be, and I just didn't get a great feel. And then as there was obviously a lot of change afoot because they got a new coach, and obviously it was Nick Saban, and I went back for a visit, and things immediately were drastically different. And he came to my house and just kind of painted the vision of what it was going to be like. And it was a 180 really on the direction I felt like of the program, and really just wanted to be part of something special. And I think to me, that was one of the big differences is there wasn't, he never begged me to come play there or said, we really need you. It was more of an invitation to be part of something special. And that appealed to me. It was an invitation to compete against other guys who were competitive and wanted the same thing, and an invitation to work really, really hard and try to achieve something together. And so I don't know, something about the way that he approached it and the process and laying that out for me. And I knew he was going to make me better. I didn't know how, I don't think anyone knew we were going to win 3 and 4 years. That was hard to predict. But I knew he was going to make me better as a player and probably also as a person and a man. And so I think that's why I really picked Alabama ultimately. And then, I grew up cheering for Alabama. So that was definitely part of it. It was probably a relatively small part of it, but it was part of it. So it was cool that it kind of all came together and had the opportunity to go. And I think it all happened a lot faster than I anticipated. I remember when I went there, I thought, I bet by my senior year it will be really good, because the first year, my senior year of high school, they were, I think 6-7 or 7-6 or something, Saban's first year. And so, it was kind of mediocre. And I thought it would take some time to turn the roster over, kind of build the culture. And, it happened a lot faster than I anticipated there. And just off for the races with that first year, getting to the SEC championship, losing as I was redshirting, and then getting back, obviously the first year I was really playing and winning that national championship, losing 10 and then winning 11-12. It was a wild ride as a starter to be able to be a part of something special and around so many great teammates.
And of course, you couldn't predict either. You would play 3 different positions on the offensive line. I mean, what allowed you to be so versatile?
Yeah, I would honestly say necessity. The key that we really wanted to do when I was there, and I'm sure a lot of offensive lines have this approach, especially in college, is we wanted to find a way to get the best 5 players on the field at offensive line. So it was less position focused, and it was a little more focused on, hey, let's find a way to get these guys in the field. And so, I think I always joke and say I was never that good at any of them, so I was just okay at all of them. So they always found a spot to put me in. Mentally I can handle it. I knew the offense really well, and so they knew I was versatile mentally. And I didn't really want to do it, honestly, when they asked me. In fact, it was the middle of spring practice in my redshirt sophomore year when they asked me if I would, or excuse me, I guess it was my redshirt junior year when they asked me if I would move the left tackle, and I was like, no, I don't really want it. And they're like, well, we really need someone out there, and we're kind of in a tough spot. Like we want you to consider moving out there. And so I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And I remember the first couple of days of practice just getting run over by Courtney Upshaw every single day and thinking like, this is awful. Why would I ever want to do this? And but I guess I did okay. And it was probably like 3 or 4 days before the spring game when we made this change. And then they thrust me into the spring game playing left tackle. I was so nervous. Even though I'd already started for 2 years, I was like, this is a totally different position. And it worked out okay. And that was the year I won the Outland. And then, I was like, okay, I think I got this left tackle thing kind of figured out. And we had this recruit named Cyrus Quanjo, who was really good and was more of a left tackle and a prototypical looking dude. And they said, hey, what would you think about, trying to play center? William Velez had graduated. We don't really have a center. And we need somebody there. And I said, okay, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And so moved inside and thought that probably that's where I projected better as an NFL player, was somewhere inside. And so played that. So it really just kind of came more out of necessity versus me trying to prove a point or anything. But it was cool to be able to experience a national championship at all 3 positions, guard, center, and tackle. That was an interesting kind of achievement, I guess, to be able to do it a little bit differently each time.
You mentioned winning the Outland Trophy. Everyone really proud of that. I think Coach Saban probably even more proud of winning the Campbell Trophy, the academic Heisman, for what you're able to do in the classroom. Just how did your time studying and in the classroom at Alabama really impact you once your football career was done?
Yeah, I mean, I got a great education in Alabama, and I'm very grateful for it, and had a lot of support when I was there from the staff. And when I initially told them I wanted to do accounting, they were like, "Are you sure? We don't really have many football players that want to do accounting." And I said, "No, I really do want to do accounting. I think it's gonna be really fun." And I loved accounting. It was a tremendous program there at Alabama, and I ended up getting my master's when I was there too, because I had that 5th year, and so I got a master's, and it's really served me well. I'm working finance now, not in accounting, but it's been great as a foundation for me to kind of launch off into business. And I've been working in finance for about 8 years and really enjoy it. So I'm very pleased, and I think sometimes all that gets lost in the shuffle. Like the old NCAA commercials say, 99% of athletes go pro in something other than sports. And even though I did briefly go pro, I think even the guys that do go pro, it's most of them have some other job. And so I'm very grateful that I was able to get such a great education that kind of launched me into a career that hopefully I can do for 40 or 50 years that I really love and enjoy. I love life now. It's been a good transition for me. And a lot of that is due to the foundation that was laid for me at Alabama.
Well, you mentioned you hope to see the Crimson Tide with you when you're honored for Legends Weekend, the SEC Championship game in Atlanta. Just what have you seen from this football team this year as it goes through a major transition, going from Coach Saban to now Coach DeBoer?
Yeah, it's been a major transition, that's for sure. I went to practice actually for the first time in like 10 years early in the season, and I was really impressed. I thought Coach DeBoer did a great job. It's obviously very different. He's very different than Nick Saban. I don't think you have to be a rocket scientist to know that. But difference not always worse. And so I think, he's got a major challenge of trying to put his guys in place. And, there was guys that left. And so, there was always going to be adversity and a challenge this year. But I think that, time will tell. It's obviously an impossible thing to do to try to follow a guy like Nick Saban. So you don't try to. You just try to be yourself, and you go in and try to be who you are. And I think he's done a good job of that, of just being himself. And, you got to ignore the noise, because he was a hero when he beat Georgia. And now, he's not a hero anymore at this very moment after, losing a couple games. And so it's hard. And there are a lot of people that care, and that's part of what makes it fun, but it's also part of what makes it challenging. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of good things. I think, people need to understand too that the overall talent this year, I think, is not quite what it has been. I mean, there's a lot of really good players, but it's not top to bottom first round draft picks like there have been some years. And so, which I'm not sure we'll see a lot of that anymore. I think the talent is much more spread out in this era. So it's going to look different for everybody. I think it's going to be really hard to be undefeated for any team moving forward, because especially in the SEC, it's a gauntlet every single week. And the lack of depth these teams have now is it makes it a lot harder to just stockpile players in this era. So yeah, I think he's doing a good job, and again, time will tell if it's a fit or not. But hopefully we still have everything in front of us. I think if they win out, there's no doubt that they will get in the playoff, and in this era, that's really all that matters, is getting a shot and playing good football at the end of the season. So we'll see what happens.
Well, Barrett, congratulations again on being named an SEC football legend. Enjoy everything coming up in Atlanta in just over a month. And thank you for the time with us today on the Crimson Tide Sports Network. Look forward to seeing you again down the road in Tuscaloosa. Roll Tide.
Thanks, Roger. I'm actually coming this weekend for the first time in a couple years, so I'm looking forward to being there.
I'm LT Overton, and you're watching Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
Don't miss out on your chance to experience the energy and the excitement of the Great American Race. Witness history in the making and purchase your tickets today for the 2025 Daytona 500 at DaytonaInternationalSpeedway.com. Congratulations to Barrett Jones on the honor. Look forward to seeing him in Atlanta in the first weekend of December. Coming up this weekend, all we have to do is go next door to the other booths to see Mike Kelly, the longtime play-by-play broadcaster for the Missouri Tigers. He has been on the call for the Tigers since 1994, and he really likes the team that Eli Drinkwitz has this season in 2024. He details the Missouri roster plus what to expect on Saturday in this week's edition of The Other Booth, presented by Marathon.
Mike, it's great to see you. We're excited to have Mizzou play in Tuscaloosa coming up this weekend. How's everything going for you and the Tigers?
All going good. Off to a 6-1 start. Looking forward to the road trip this weekend. And really, Roger, I think it's it's an opportunity for Missouri to see if there has truly been growth as this season has progressed. The last time Mizzou was on the road in an environment like it's going to face on Saturday, they failed and failed miserably against Texas A&M, getting blown out 41-10. And so, can Missouri as a football team show maturity in this matchup on Saturday? I think is one of the things that I'm anxious to find out.
If you could just talk us through the schedule that Missouri's played so far at getting to that 6-1 record.
Well, opened against Murray State, not an impressive non-conference schedule, playing Murray State at home against Buffalo, at home against Boston College, at home against Vanderbilt to open SEC play, and then, played your first road game, week 4, week 5, if you will, after a bye week, going to Texas A&M. And so then a date at UMass, which was an interesting setting in that you go from 103,000 at Kyle Field to 16,000 at UMass, and so that was a unique experience. And of course, last week against Auburn, finding a way really to win that game, I think, is the theme of the 6th victory of the season. You did not play well on the opening drive. You lost your quarterback in Brady Cook, lost your starting running back in Nate Noel. Second series of the game, lost your starting tight end. We're down already 2 wide receivers who played quite a bit. But yet found a way to kind of hang in and come back from a 17-3 second half deficit and win 21-17. And really, I think the headline from that game is the legend of Brady Cook continues to grow. And what do I mean by that? For those that are listening that don't know, here's a kid that grew up in St. Louis that all he ever dreamed about was playing quarterback at the University of Missouri. His parents have photos of him standing in line to shake players' hands as they're entering the stadium during Mizzou's Tiger Walk. As a little guy wearing his Mizzou jersey, and here he is now as a 5th-year senior. His 3rd year as a starter, 17-3 as a starter over the last 2 seasons. Started 33 consecutive games. Will make his 34th start this weekend. Gets injured, goes in the locker room, goes to the nearby hospital to have an MRI. Missed 2 hours and 22 minutes of game time, but then came back and led Mizzou on 2 scoring drives to come back and win. Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, it really is straight out of a movie for him. Backing up just a little bit to Missouri's game against Vanderbilt, a tight game, 2 overtime victory for the Tigers. I'm just curious, based on how that game went, were you surprised at all with how well Vanderbilt played against Alabama?
No, I told some people after Missouri's football game that this is clearly Clark Lea's best team. Vanderbilt's a bowl team, and I think it underscores the job that Coach Lee and his staff have done, during the course of the offseason in terms of getting guys in the portal. As Diego Pavia is a difference maker. You can see the fingerprints of Jerry Kill, all over the offense, and particularly what they do in the red zone. Stowers is a playmaker that they brought in at tight end. And so, and they've become much more physical, I think, and dominant up front on the defensive line. And so, I wasn't surprised. I told people I thought it was going to be a very difficult game because I just think that Vandy's kind of like playing with a little bit of a swagger that people haven't seen. I'm very impressed with what Clark Lea's done this year with his team.
Well, going back to the Missouri Tigers, we talked about Brady Cook in this last game for him. Who are some of the key playmakers around him he's going to try and get the ball to against Alabama?
Luther Burden has got to be a factor in the game. Kid that came into the season as a preseason All-American, is not having an All-American type season, but is capable of changing the game. Second play from scrimmage at UMass goes 61 yards on a jet sweep. Big 4th down reception of 16 yards in Missouri's game-winning drive against Auburn. Again, in a game that he was very quiet until the final drive when he had 2 receptions on that 17-play drive. Theo Weiss is a kid who's a transfer from Oklahoma in his 2nd year at Missouri. Again, a kid that's got to have an impact on the game. And then, to me, Roger, you've seen enough football, and particularly in this league, it's up front defensively in the line of scrimmage on both sides of the football. Whoever controls the line of scrimmage wins the game. And can Missouri, can they run the ball, and can Mizzou stop the run? And in my mind, those are two huge parts of what we're going to witness on Saturday.
Who are the playmakers on defense?
Guy named Corey Flagg, a linebacker who transferred from Miami. He's Missouri's leading tackler. Started the season as the backup and continues to rotate with Chuck Hicks at one of those inside linebacking positions. Young man from St. Louis named Marvin Burks, who's a redshirt freshman, actually a sophomore now in the program. Chris McClellan, a transfer from Florida, starts inside at a defensive tackle. He's a guy that's played very well, very consistently through the season. And then on the defensive end, Zion Young, a transfer from Michigan State, had his best game on Saturday against Auburn, and then Johnny Walker Jr., who was the defensive MVP of the Cotton Bowl against Ohio State last year. Those would be some of the names that I'd keep an eye on.
And then for Coach Drinkwitz, this is now his 5th season at Missouri. What's his style, and how has he really made this program his own?
It's an interesting question. I don't know that I could identify or answer the word style. I would say that what he's done is that he's done a very good job in terms of recruiting and building the roster. He's done a really good job in the portal the last couple of years in terms of bringing in, plug and play guys. Chris McClellan is an example. Corey Flagg's an example on the offensive side of the football. Marcus Bryant at left tackle came from SMU. Caden Green, who's a Missouri kid, started at Oklahoma a year ago, so he's now Missouri starter at left guard. So I think he's a player's coach, but I think he's a guy that is a disciplinarian as well. Missouri has had very, very few problems with players, off the field. Guys are graduating, guys are doing their thing. And then he's had success, obviously, on the field as well. Again, through the last 20 games, Missouri's 17-3, which matches Mizzou's best 20-game stretch in school history. And so I think the other thing, too, that Coach Drinkwitz has done a wonderful job with is just developing, I think, a relationship with the fan base. He understands that everybody's got their hands full this weekend. It's all hands on deck, and you try to prepare as best as you can, and then see what happens on Saturday.
We're excited for football on Saturday, but the one team that has given Alabama basketball throughout the years, especially in Columbia, Missouri, has been the Missouri Tigers. What can you tell us about the excitement and the build-up to the season for the Tigers on the hardwood?
Much different team than the team that lost 19 consecutive games to finish the season. That sounds weird saying that, doesn't it? Lost 19 consecutive games to finish the season, but they did. Missouri hasn't had a win in basketball since December the 30th of 2023. Much different team. Again, went on the portal, added a Mark Mitchell from Duke, added a Tony Perkins from the University of Iowa, added Marquez Warwick from Northern Kentucky, and then built around guys coming back like Caleb Grill, who's healthy, Tamar Bates, who was Missouri's leading scorer a year ago, and then added a top 10 recruiting class with really 5 kids that can play right away. And so you had to be better, right? It had to be better, particularly in this league when you just look. I mean, I think Bruce Pearl may have said it. You could be number 10 in the SEC in basketball this year and be number 25 in the country. So the league's really good, obviously.
It really is. Well, Mike Kelly, we look forward to seeing you and the Missouri Tigers in town this weekend. Just safe travels, and thank you for your time.
Anytime, Roger. Take care.
We're excited about everything coming up on Saturday here in Tuscaloosa, especially at Vector Security Champions Lane. And I do want to mention as well that the Yeti Cups this year have been a huge hit. We've had vintage Alabama logos, some Yetis that read Roll Tide Roll on them, but never before have we had a design like this. It's Ryan Williams catching a pass against Georgia. 4 + 2 = 6. We heard that from Ryan Williams after his debut with the Crimson Tide against Western Kentucky. Well, that has really spawned everything. Jalen Milroe wears wears number 4, Ryan Williams wears number 2. Add that together, you get a touchdown. And we've seen that a lot this year for the Crimson Tide. So now we have a Yeti design with Ryan Williams, again, catching that go-ahead touchdown against Georgia. That's the silhouette on this Crimson Yeti Cup. And these are available for purchase coming up on Saturday. Where can you buy them? One place. That is Vector Security Champions Lane. We do have a few program stands around Saban Field as well where you could purchase it, but you really need to go right here. Just to the entrance to Legends Lounge. These are going to go fast. We've been seeing fans line up to buy these Yeti Cups, and this one especially with some of the proceeds going back to Ryan Williams and Jalen Milroe. It's part of their name, image, and likeness funds. You need to make sure you grab one of these right now because it's bragging rights for you every time you go to the office with this 4 + 2 = 6 Yeti Cup. Again, this will be also a great Christmas gift with Christmas coming up just around the corner, even though we're still talking in October. But again, these are available for purchase along with several other great Yeti designs at the Legends Lounge, part of Vector Security Champions Lane. Make sure you check it out coming up this Saturday for Alabama against Missouri. Friends, check out Game Day Done Right, because there's one thing we can really all agree on. No one wants to be the last one left at a tailgate at the end of the game, having to do all the cleanup, all the breakdown while their friends are out celebrating. If you've been in this situation before, you know the true value in what the team at Game Day Done Right provides. They handle the entire process for you, from setup to breakdown. Stellar customer service on game days to make sure your group is taken care of from start to finish. All you have to do is visit GameDayDoneRight.com, reserve your tailgate package, and let their team take it from there. Saturday, it's homecoming, Alabama against Missouri, but plenty still coming up across the Crimson Tide Sports Network as we take a look at our upcoming schedule. Tomorrow, the latest episode of Tide TV This Week will debut with Paige Riley and yours truly hosting that, taking a look at all Alabama athletics. You can find that on UA Athletics social media platforms as well as our TV affiliates across the state. Then on Saturday, the radio coverage will start outside this week at 11:30 starting at Vector Security Champions Lane will be the radio airtime for the network, and then of course the kickoff at 2:30. Make sure, of course, either you listen on the radio network, Varsity Network app, or you can watch the Yay Alabama booth cam streaming live to all Crimson Tide Sports Network social media platforms. Chris Stewart, Kalen DeBoer will talk about the ballgame on the Kalen DeBoer TV show coming up. Also on Sunday to our radio affiliates, or excuse me, TV affiliates. That'd be funny if we did it on radio too. But TV affiliates across the state, RolledTide.com, Alabama Athletics social media platforms. And then on Monday, the latest episode of Crimson Tide Rewind as Corey Reamer and I will break down this ballgame. That's at 6 p.m. from Baumhauer's Victory Grill in Vestavia Hills. One programming note, we will have Crimson Tide Rewind this week. We will not have it in a couple weeks on November 4th because we'll have a basketball doubleheader starting the new season of men's and women's basketball for you here on the network. So with everything that's coming up, make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. It's going to be very busy over the next few weeks with interview clips, game highlights. You want to go to the one place to get true news from the Crimson Tide Sports Network. That is Alabama right there at UA_CTSN for all the very latest on the Alabama Crimson Tide. And that's going to wrap up a very busy edition. First time in a while, we've had 4 guests on the show, plus somebody else that we will get to in just a moment, the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer. But thank you as well to Wilkin Formby, Laura Rutledge, Barrett Jones, Mike Kelly for breaking down Alabama against Missouri. Thank you to Ethan Carabin, our video producer, put the entire show together. And thanks to all of you for watching. This has been Roger Hoover, and as we wrap things up on this Crimson Drive driven by NASCAR, we wanted to hear last from the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, who was at his radio show last night, along with Chris Stewart, wide receiver Ryan Williams, and also maybe a birthday cake will make an appearance. Anyway, it was a fun time last night as we celebrate a birthday today for the head coach of the Crimson Tide, Kalen DeBoer, and we will let him have the final word on this edition of Crimson Drive, driven by NASCAR.
You know, we're excited to be back at Bryant-Denny, and it's homecoming. We want to do our part to have all the people that are coming back to have the reunions and celebrations, all of that, make it a great weekend. And, you know, for us, it's a lot of hard work that goes into, you know, what I guess a lot of people would call fun. The fun for us is winning and celebrating afterwards. And that's the work that's going in is there right now. I can promise you that. These guys are determined. I don't want to say as determined as ever because I think they've been determined since the beginning, but they certainly understand the areas and have really been focusing on all the areas that we need to continue to improve, work on, and are motivated to be best they can and play the best football that we've played all year.
Coach, we appreciate you as always being here. Thanks for bringing the deuce with you as well, Ryan Williams. Thank you, buddy. Good to see you both.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. And happy birthday tomorrow.
Appreciate it.